Welcome back to the 52 Wealth Principles, 52 Weeks to Wealth. My name is Walter Amorello, and we've been traveling through this journey of discovery, of deciding what we want and how to get it. If you want to double your income, double your net worth, then the 52 Wealth Principles is the place to start. And the 52 Weeks to Wealth is the journey to be on. Give yourselves a round of applause inside your head and on camera if you got your camera on. Wealth principle number 25 is the power of outsourcing. The power of outsourcing. And now we're not just talking about shipping your business over to another country. We're talking about outsourcing your activities to somebody else entirely. But it doesn't have to be outside of this country or outside of the world. It could just be outsourcing to somebody locally. Hands to the camera if you've identified that there are things in your life that are probably not paying you that you're still doing. Excellent. So then if we looked at an average of things, and I want you to vision in your head, if you remember when you were in school, there was this process where you would go and you write down and you learned how to average stuff. So they'd give you 5 numbers and it'd be like 95, 97, 98, and then they'd throw in 0, and 0 would fuck up the entire system, right? Like you'd have this reasonable average of maybe it's in the 90s, and then they threw 99 in there, and maybe it's in the 90s, but 0 drops it down to like 70 something, right? Hands to the camera if you remember averaging, like how averaging works, where you take the 5 numbers, add them up, and then multiply them by that. How many numbers there are? 5 in this case. So averaging, we can look at the time that we spend on things. And here's what most people miss, and maybe it's not you, but what some people miss, most people, is that time that it takes you to go and cut the grass, that time it takes you to wash those dishes, the time that it takes you to take out the trash or clean your house or do your laundry or spend on emails, spend on listening to voicemails, spend on responding back to people. That's all time that arguably doesn't have a direct connection to money. Hands to the camera if that's true. Yes. So excellent. So it's true in your business, true in my business. In that situation, it's bringing down your average. Can we see how that's possible? How some of these activities bring down the average of all the other activities throughout the day? And now if we look on the other side, I bet you there's something you can think of that makes you the most money. It's usually some sort of contact with somebody else. It's usually a conversation, or in some cases, it could be a system in place. I know that once our marketing system is in place, I can put $20,000 down and make 200,000. So that particular system may have been time consuming to build, but it's got a very large, almost infinite return on investment. And so, Cam, if you know you've got something like that in your business as well. Everybody does. Everybody does. If you haven't identified it, I would write that down as a thing to do. Right? What is the one thing such that by doing it, everything else is easier and unnecessary? I would identify the highest leverage point in your business. Seriously, because if you don't see it, you're missing something really important. You're probably working too hard. Here's the other interesting fact. Everybody has a high leverage point. Everybody has a high leverage point in their business, and they're probably not hitting it to their maximum. If for some reason we only go to the leverage point that we're comfortable with. Ask any millionaire on this call. Ask any millionaire that you know. How much did you make last year? They'll tell you the number if they like you. And ask them if they don't think you're the IRS, right? And then ask them what they made the year before, and ask them what they made the year before. The number will usually be very close. The numbers each year will usually be very close. In this community, I will say that the numbers are probably a little higher than average. There's probably an adjustment that's happening as every year you're growing and doubling your net worth and you're doubling your income. But for the average millionaire, it was probably about the same. The year before, the year before that, the year before that. And I'll say this, in our community, there's a chance that there was a 20 to 40% increase in income year on prior to being a part of the community. The reason being, we attract highly motivated people. It's a different type of crowd. But if you go and you ask any other millionaire, the average millionaire, their income stayed about the same with a 10 to 15% increase in income. You ask the average person, their income has literally stayed the same, flatlined, year in, year out, year in, year out, with possibly a 1 to 2% change. That's their 1 to 2% raise. Everybody familiar with that process? How they get that raise? They get all excited about it. Nothing wrong with getting excited about a raise, except for it's only 1 or 2%. Shit, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to make a difference. Inflation is 5% right now. You're losing, right? If you're getting 1 to 2% as your raise for the year, it doesn't even cut inflation. Doesn't even touch it. The country is in trouble. And if your activities are not giving you that raise that you deserve, then you're in trouble. You got to change what you're doing. You got to change what you're focusing on. So outsourcing, the power of outsourcing is this. Any job or task, I think for people starting out, any job or task that is under $25 an hour, like if you could pay somebody under $25 an hour to do it, put it under scrutiny. And I would put all tasks under scrutiny, including some of the stuff that you wouldn't expect. There are some things that I've outsourced, like washing dishes. I don't do. I instead use paper plates because paper is biodegradable and I don't feel bad about throwing it away. Those utensils like are so easy to wash. I don't mind washing the utensils, but the plate, the pan, the cup, I eat out most of the time in order to avoid washing dishes. The laundry, man, Dorina has been killing me this last year. But generally, I just drop my laundry off at somebody and they wash and fold and then we take it home. Dorina has this washer machine, or as I like to call it, the time suck of the week, where she goes and she puts all the clothes into this hole and then they come out wet and then she throws them into another hole and they come out dry. And then they sit in our house for about a week before she decides to fold them. And does anybody know what I'm talking about? Has one of those machines in their house? It is not just killing 2 hours of our life. I promise you it's killing way more than that, because the amount of times I hear about it a week, oh, gotta do laundry. Oh, I gotta fold those clothes. Oh, they're still sitting there. Hands to camera if you've ever done this before to yourself. Yo, that is torture. That is absolute torture. Your time is more valuable. You're not a freaking folder of clothes, right? That is, Ron, how much do we pay the person who does our clothes, who does our laundry?
Usually about $30 a load.
$30 a load.
Ish.
No, it's like $30 every 2 loads. I recall.
No, that's every time So I'm remembering from when Shelby used to live here.
Got it. So yeah, it used to cost me, I'd say a month, maybe $60. A month, $60. I drop my clothes off twice a month, and then I'd just go and unpack the 2 bags each time, and I'd put them away because they were folded perfect. By the way, I had to adjust my system to how they folded the laundry.
Got that from me.
What is it?
You got that idea from me.
Let's give Ron Bowling a round of applause. Clearly, he wants the attention or the credit. Ron is right most of the time, so I did get that from him. And he was right. He saved me like so many hours just from that one hack. I haven't cut my grass. In fact, I don't even remember what cutting grass feels like. I mean,
I think that also, if you're not in a place where you can afford to hire out those different things or go have your laundry done at this point, the biggest time suck is complaining about it or getting frustrated about it instead of just jumping in and taking the 15 minutes to fold a thing of laundry or to the 2 minutes it takes to take the laundry and throw it in the hole that he's talking about or switch it over. It doesn't take that long, but when we sit there and start overthinking how bad it sucks or how much time we're losing, you're actually putting way too much time or thought into it, because it's really actually pretty easy to wash a dish or to do laundry or anything like that. But our ego will make it a very long process and then congratulate us on how much we got done when we didn't do shit.
And you could also use that time if you have to. Net time. Read a book with your ears while you're folding the laundry.
What we do.
Yep.
That's right. And so, guys, gals, I'm going to keep this one short this week. We're going to go to about 10:25 and then start with Mike's book of the week. And then we're going to open it up to the coaches and questions. Hands to the camera, if that's okay, for changing the format just a little bit. In the past, I'd run these a little too long to make great content for YouTube. And so priorities, right? We got to make sure the content's great. So we're in this process of identifying. Remember last week, Wealth Principle 24, where we were talking about how you have to get really mad about things and the things you failed at and the suffering and the stuff that went wrong, and then write them down. Hands to the camera if you did that exercise. Excellent. Excellent. Hands to the camera if you know it was a valuable exercise. So now we're going to take that exercise and we're going to put it into place, into action. And like Terry was saying, if you can't afford to bring on that VA or that person to replace you in these activities, it's time to write some freaking goals. It's time to increase your income so that you can get more of your time back. You're a slave to your own devices. You're a slave to your own life right now. And there's stuff that you'll convince yourself that is fun that you like to do. If that truly is the case, like I wash my own car sometimes, not the outside, the inside. That is something I enjoy. I listen to music like Doug was saying, and I have a blast doing it. But that's where I draw the line with labor. I don't enjoy doing any of the other stuff. And because I know it's a waste of my time, it just doesn't add value. It doesn't do good. I live in Florida, so going outside to wash my car is fun. Yeah, it's like my only time outside, and I enjoy that. Hands to the camera if you are ready for an exercise on how to outsource and how to get the money to outsource. Excellent. First, you take that list that you wrote last week. You have identified the things that went wrong in your life. And this week, I want you to add a whole other section to it. The things that you spend your time on. This is the things that you spend your time on, not the things that you don't want to do, not the things that you did do that made money. All of the things. I woke up. I sat in bed for 15 minutes. I shut my alarm off for 15 minutes. I brushed my teeth. I stared in the mirror for a good 3 minutes, just making sure that my eyes aren't all red or something, like still there. Track literally every minute, and you'll start noticing micro habits of failure, and you'll start noticing some things that do really well for you. But in those moments, you can make your life far more efficient. In every single one of those moments between that 30-minute block, 20-minute block, how many times, and I don't see Mitch Jorsky on the call, but how many times did I open Leo Finance or Cub DeFi today? Did I open it more than once? Because really I only have to auto compound one time. And if I'm opening it 2-3 times, that means there's something going on where I'm being inefficient and I'm losing time. Am I on Facebook reading the feed more than one time a day or more than 2 times a day? And am I reading for intention or am I reading for just entertainment? Same with any of the platforms. By the way, I did some research yesterday. The average time on Facebook is up 2.5 hours a day. Average time on Facebook. Average time on Instagram up 30 minutes a day. Average time on Snapchat is up 30 minutes a day. The average time on Twitter is up. Even the Twitter folks are spending more time. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So if you're going to have a social platform that doesn't take a lot of time, get on the boring one. Get on Twitter. But the point is that people are losing their lives to something that isn't moving them forward. Hands to the camera if you know that's a problem. Yeah, that's an issue. They're spending all their time watching and not spending any time creating. They're consuming content instead of creating content. We live in a world where if I tell them to do a video, they're like, oh my God, I can't do one video a week. That's insanity. But they'll watch 30 to 100 videos a day. A day. We got an issue, right? We got a problem. You don't make money from consumption. That's the American way, right? Just to keep consuming because it feels good. Yeah. You make money from creation. You make money from creating content. So anyway, outsource that shit to somebody else. Let somebody else find out what's going on in your world, in your life, and send you a text so you can go create something, go make something, earn something, call somebody, contact somebody. Facebook is for messenger. That's all Facebook is for, right? If you're not messaging somebody on Facebook, you're not making money. Money, the good stuff. Uncle Benjamin, right? These guys. So, outsourcing. Here's a secret. Write a list of all the shit you do, all the stuff, the garbage, and write a list of all the champion moments. And I want you to do more champion moments, less garbage. There are different ways you can outsource. You can outsource with a VA, virtual assistant. You can outsource with partnerships, strategic partnerships like the coaches. You can outsource with employees. You can outsource with systems. You can outsource with powerful tools and systems like our CRM programs. You can outsource with a new habit, or as Terry likes to say, a new routine, something that you memorize and do consistently. Sometimes the inefficiencies of your day will blow your mind. I was talking to Dorina yesterday as I was preparing for this talk. And as I walked across from our porch over to the kitchen, I picked up 2-3 cups and a bowl, and I put them in the sink. And I told her, I just outsourced my job in the future of cleaning the house, of going through and having this mess. Like I was walking across the house, and I was able to outsource from my future self. I was just able to, as I was walking across, be useful. Does that make sense? Changing your habits to be more efficient and changing who's doing things and then how many times you do things. I check my email about once a week and I get a lot of shit from that. But I'd let everybody know you don't belong to emailing me. There is literally nothing you could email me that is going to get my activity. Now, most entrepreneurs are not in this place where they can do that. And I'm not suggesting going and adopting this don't check your email attitude. But at least reduce how many times who checks it more than once a day? Why? What's going to happen? Like they sent it via email. They clearly don't give a fuck whether it gets done or not. Right? Like who checks the mailbox more than once a day? Come on. Like if they wanted it done, you would have gotten a phone call, right? You would have got a text message to verify that you read the email. Email is sent because people are not interested in confrontation. People are sending you something that's not that important. So you can check it once a day. Now, some of you are getting things that maybe need to be done that day, but they don't need to be done that hour. Right? Hands to the camera if you've never seen an email that needed to be done that hour. Have you ever seen one that was like imperative that hour? Yeah, what was it? Like a document to sign for a closing? Hands to the camera if it was a document signed for a closing. I bet you're full of shit. I bet you could have done it later in the day, maybe at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and it probably still would have closed. I guarantee you. Ask me how I know. A week goes by before I get some of my documents. And then I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, sign. The attorney will tell you it needs to get signed that day. The lender will tell you it needs to get signed that day. But I guarantee you all of it, except for Mike Shine's very particular situation where he did have to fly down here to sign a document. Mike, did they email you that? Mike, you're
Yeah, but they didn't,
they didn't care if you signed or not.
it had to be a wet signature, so a real signature. I still call bullshit, but it was better to pay $600 for a quick flight than worry about losing 60 grand. So I'm sure there would have, you're absolutely right. I'm sure there was a solution that could have been signed the same day, but I
So
wasn't
there we
risking-
have it. The highest stakes possible, right? Losing 60 grand And still, there would have been a solution. But I'm not talking about not reading it that day. I'm literally saying just read it at 12 o'clock and then maybe read it at 5 o'clock. If you're that addicted, you could go twice a day. But why? Why read it early in the morning? Shit, you're going to like, if you already got a plan, do your plan, stick to it. So outsourcing is important. On this list, I want you to write down this list, the things that you do that you shouldn't be doing, right? Anything that is under, who wants to be a millionaire? Hands to camera if you know you want to be a millionaire. Excellent. Who wants to work 20 hours a week? Like is willing to put in the 20 to be the millionaire. Like that's, yes. So then you got to be in that range of $700 to $1,000 an hour activities. Right? If you wanted to work 40 hours, you could be under $400 an hour. But if you want to cut that in half, you got to be closer to $800 an hour. $800 tasks per hour. If it's not an $800 task per hour, then it's probably getting outsourced at some point. Now, I'm not saying outsource everything right away. Outsource the right things first. Outsource the right things first. And then, but you do not outsource. Nobody here is allowed to outsource without identifying what their highest talent is, what their highest skill is. Bring the money in first. First, drop some shit. Just don't do some stuff and go and take action. And then once you've brought the money in, you can outsource. Does that make sense? This is how it works. Just don't do some things for a week. Do the right thing for a week. Bring the money in, bring the opportunity in, and then go outsource. And then go and do more of the right activity. Is it reasonable to say that you are currently doing the wrong activity to hit your financial goals? Is that reasonable? I want to beg that question against every single coach that I have ever spoken to, ever on the Alchemist Nation podcast, millionaires, has told me in their 3 tips or in the 30 minutes around the podcast that action is the key to success. Hands to camera if you've heard that before. Like if I were to put all success, all 52 wealth principles together into one principle, take action. Plain and simple. We agree. That's what it would be. So then your actions, if you're not happy with the results, are the wrong actions. Plain and simple. And as Melanie asked me yesterday about time, not having enough time, if you don't have enough time to get the actions done that you want in a day, that's because you're using the wrong size fucking hammer. Get a bigger hammer. Right? If you're hitting the nail like a stake and you're putting a stake in the ground, but you got your little hammer from inside the house, right? Or like the hammer your kids use, a little plastic toy hammer, it's not going to get the job done. Right? It's time to go and get 4 or 5 guys with the big mallets and you do that TikTok video where it's all ding, 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 ding. Anybody ever watch those? Where the 4 or 5 guys are slamming a big stake in the ground and somehow they get it done. You got to ask the right people and get the right tools and then take the right action. Hands to camera, if you're committed to taking this list and solving some problems this week, I've given you the math to it. The math is here. The math is simple. The action of actually scrutinizing your week and identifying your highest leverage point and your lowest leverage point is the work. It's the action. And that's the hardest part. That's the part that for most entrepreneurs is easy to forget and easy to ignore and easy not to do. I'm telling you, the easiest things are the biggest things that will give you the best return. Yes, they're outside of your comfort zone, but they are easy. They are simple. Success is not complicated. Success is simple. $1 million is simple. It's easy. This action will get you there. If I easy argue, if I was doing $1 million activities, I'd make $1 million, right? We could say that. If anyone does $1 million activities, they can make $1 million. If anybody does $1 million in a week activities, they can make $1 million in a week. Yes? The problem with most people is they're like, I'll do $1 million in 3 years activities. I'll do $1 million in 5-year activities. I'm breaking it up to do it this way. I want you to decide to shorten the timeline. Decide to get a sense of urgency. Decide to get a little bit crazy with your goal. The goal of making $1 million is not a normal goal, except for the other 18 million millionaires on the planet or in the country. We're the only ones that think it's normal. But for everybody else around you, they're going to tell you you're crazy. When you say, I'm aiming at working and making $1,000 an hour, they're going to think you're nuts. Is it okay to be considered nuts? I think so. I think so. When I hit $1,000 an hour for the first time, it blew my mind. And the reason I hit it is because I was aiming at it. Until I aimed at $1,000 an hour, I hadn't earned the right. Remember what I told you a few weeks back? Go to bed with gratitude. Do not go to sleep if you haven't earned it. If you haven't earned and been thankful for what you got, thankful for what you're creating, faith, like with faith that you're getting it, you haven't earned sleep. Well, it's the same thing with this goal. If you want $1 million, don't go to bed until you've set the goal, set the intention to be worth $1,000 an hour. If you don't know what your $1,000 an hour activity is, it's time to do some research, time to do some soul searching, time to do some freaking math, like figure it out. I did it for agents. I did it for agents a while back. Agents, if you're spending more than 30 minutes with a client, you're losing money, literally losing money. Client time should be closer to 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to make $1,000 an hour, your client time must be 5 to 10 minutes. The first thought, that's impossible, right? Hence, Karen, if that was your first thought. It's not impossible. Shit, my clients don't even get 5 to 10 minutes from me. And yet I still make their money. I do everything in groups. I market, spend money on marketing, and I have other people do the clients. So my time is spread across. I can have 100 clients in a room. And my time, even though I'm there for an hour or 30 minutes, is spread across everybody. Hence the camera if you see that right now, happening literally right now. So it is possible. And this is just one example of it. The other example of it is I get a phone call, I have a conversation, boom, I fire it off. Or a lead comes through Facebook, or a lead comes through Bigger Pockets. I text them, I send them to somebody to get the job done, and I'm out. Less than 5 minutes per contact, per client. So how do you value your time? What is each client worth? How long are you spending with them? How are you servicing them? Where is the system broken? The system's broken somewhere if you're not hitting your goal. There's Kevin Pereira asks, is there not as much profit outsourcing? Kevin, there is more profit outsourcing because you can do more deals. Now, if you talk about the per deal, well, yeah, no, like per deal, like, but don't look at per deal. Look at how much money you're making. Don't worry about how many deals you're doing. Don't worry about how many units you got. Look at how much money you're earning. This is the key. It's not about how much work you do. It's how much value you create and bring to the marketplace. They will tell you how much you brought by paying you. Mike Shine, what is our book of the week?
Thank you, Walter. I'll put it in the chat.
Do you have the book with you? You're muted. Mike, you got muted for some reason.
Sorry. Hello. I put it in the chat. The book of the week is A Whole New Mind by Daniel H. Pink. And what's cool about what Walter is saying is that because of where we are in technology these days, you can pretty much outsource anything or tons and tons of things. You know, they used to say smart guy would be at a cocktail party and knew all these facts that nobody else knew, but now we have Google. So none of that stuff works anymore. There's, as a lawyer, there are actually AI programs that can do all the legal research that I would have to do or that Jamie would have to do. So since everything or most things can be outsourced, what are we doing? And what this book tells you is that the human side, the empathy, the listening, the person who can listen to their client, listen, if you're a realtor, listen to your client, that's the value that you can't outsource. So Drew Martin says MWAs, minimum wage activities. Any of those activities, doing laundry, doing dishes, cutting the grass. It's in all the books that we read, especially Gary Keller. He always says, don't be doing those things. But this book points out that, okay, now you've got all this free time. What are you doing? And it's all the right brain stuff. It's analytical stuff. It's helping people in a human and personal way. So it's a neat book, especially if you're like into like the science of it all. I really like this book, and yeah, so it's A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink, and I recommend it. It's cool to see what we'll be doing in the future. Thank you.
Let's give Mike Shine a round of applause. And speaking of our future and how you can advantage yourself so you can double your income, double your net worth, go to ibuildmillionaires.com/summit and check out the summit for Orlando. We're doing the 100 Millionaire Summit. We're going out there, all of us, for 3 days straight, and we're going to reset your financial blueprint. If you're having a hard time with automating, if you're having a hard time with getting more done, if you're having a hard time with accomplishing your goal of increasing income, we're going to solve that problem with all of our coaches live in person. We'll be signing books. We'll be hanging out. We'll be taking selfies. But more importantly, we're going to be putting you through a rigorous training for 3 days straight. The 100 Millionaire Summit is the most efficient learning weekend that you will ever experience. Hands to the camera if you understand. That's how we do everything. Anything we do it with all of our attention to make more success. We're on a mission to build 100 millionaires. 100 millionaires. And if you have already registered for the mentorship and you're in the mentorship program, then you're getting your ticket for free and a ticket for your partner. So give yourselves a round of applause. Everybody in the mentorship, you spent your money. We're doubling down our investment in you to make sure that we've reset your mindset for this year. Next year, it's going to be an even bigger, better event. But you're going to want to make sure that you got the lanyard that says 2021. Hands to camp if you know you want to collect those bad puppies. That's right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Go to ibuildmillionaires.com/summit, or just go to ibuildmillionaires.com and register if you're listening on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and you want to get access to this event next week. Next week, we're going to talk about Wealth Principle 26. Write this one down. It's long. Study the people and businesses that are performing the way you want your business to perform. We're going to talk about how to identify the secrets to success in your business, in your market today by studying the people who are already doing well and building a little blueprint on them. Hands to the camera if you gained something from today's training. Excellent. Hands to the camera if you're sticking around to see what the coaches have to say, what they've got to deliver. Excellent. And after the coaches give their piece, we're going to open it up to questions. So if there are any questions or things that you learned, we're going to be here till about 11 o'clock so we can hang out. And if you got other things and other businesses and other activities you want to do, at least stick around for the coaches. These men and women are millionaires and they have some really powerful advice. Speaking of Dr. Terry Wager, you're up.
Yeah, outsourcing is one of the easiest ways to basically generate time for yourself. But you want to be careful about what you're outsourcing, when you're outsourcing, and how you're outsourcing it. You don't want to outsource to people who don't know what they're doing. You don't want to outsource things that you don't know how to do yet, because if you outsource it and don't know how to do it, you don't know when there's a problem with it. And so we want to know what we're doing, and we always talk about it. Learn it, do it, delegate it. And so you want to outsource something after you know what you're doing with it and after you have a system, because you want to delegate and outsource the system, not the activity. And so you want to make sure that you're knowing what you're doing there. And if you don't know it, learn it, because if you don't know it, you're missing a hole in your business. And the worst thing that you can do is run a business with a bunch of holes. That's called a sieve, and everything runs right through it. And so making sure to understand your business as an entirety is really the deal. And then knowing each part of it. Then outsource the things in your personal life first. Those things you don't necessarily need to know. You can outsource by getting a maid. You can outsource by getting somebody to take care of some of the other things that you do that you don't necessarily need to do. You can hire somebody to wash your car, or you can just our friend Michael has a monthly pass and he gets to wash his car all the damn time. And he just takes his car through and it's done. Those are the kinds of things that make it really easy to live that high performance lifestyle, because you're getting rid of the things that are getting in the way of you actually taking care of your priorities. And then you can spend more time learning that stuff, so then you can delegate it right.
You know, Terry, I thought you were going to hit this one. Let's give Dr. Terry Wager a round of applause. Outsourcing your education is the smartest thing that you can do. It's how you speed past, it's how you get on the bullet train of action. Outsourcing the research, outsourcing the paying attention to your failures. Instead, just go get a coach or a mentor or join a mastermind and get see, Terry's got the bullet train of action up now. Outsourcing research and development, going and figuring out what you should be doing, just outsource it. Just go, like, that's what I did when I hired the coach to help me build my webinars. I just outsourced. I spent $32,000 so that I don't mess up on something that I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, my ads.
So I totally agree with that. Get somebody who knows how to do it, but then learn it. Don't just, for me, the whole idea of outsourcing is giving it off somebody and not looking at it anymore. What Walter's talking about is getting the education around it and being involved in it 100%. I've actually had people call me because I teach sales and they're like, hey, can you just do my sales for me? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not buying a job. I'm not doing that. I will teach you how to do it. And then if you want me to teach your team how to do it, I can do that, but I'm not going to come in and do it for you. I will do it with you until you know how to do it really well. And then we will outsource it.
Let's give Dr. Terry Wager one more round of applause. We understand why it doesn't make sense to just go and do. Teaching is the highest leverage piece. And same for you. Watch what we do. I build you, and then you build your team. Everything you're learning from us, everything you're learning from me and the other coaches, I want you taking copious notes so you can teach it to your staff, to your partners, to your strategic partners, to your team members, because this is how you scale. This is how you get out of the business. $1 million people do not do it alone. There's not a single one of us who does it alone. $10 million, man, it's a team. It's a freaking army.
And if you want, I'm going to say, if you want a team to work at a high performance level, hire a high performance coach that works with high performance teams. That is Generator 2.
Get on the bullet train of action.
Get on the bullet train.
Doug McGurk, you are up.
Right on. Sorry I missed the last two. You guys rock. So, yeah, I mean, this is a paradigm shift in thought. Like, Kevin's like, well, isn't that going to cut into? And I was having a chat the other day with a friend of mine about investing and, about hiring property managers, right? Just again, outsourcing. And he's like, well, but then you're not going to be making it. Why don't you just buy a REIT? Why don't you just, right? So there's all these conversations around strategy, and it's that paradigm shift. And Walter just shared, and Terry, first, outsource. If it's not a money thing, teach someone and enroll them, even if it's getting an intern, even if it's getting someone to support you in that way. Start small so that you could start letting go easier. Sometimes the challenge is we hold on to our gig because we don't think, what we do, no one can do it the way I can. Well, that's what's keeping you stuck. And sometimes it's just bringing someone on that you can teach how to do it the way you do it, and then they can bring their level of expertise, but you got to start somewhere. And I know sometimes it can be a little overwhelming when we're having these conversations and you're hearing about, oh yeah, I got 100 units and I got this. And you're like, I just need one, right? So start small if you haven't gotten to the point where you're able to outsource high level, high performance, because the reason why you're not there yet is because you haven't done the walking yet. Sometimes we're talking about running, and that's why we're here, is to support, like, okay, no, yep, here's the balance, here's the step, here's the thing. Well, yeah, you could start with bringing someone in to, help out something around the house, or help out with making some, doing some admin work or something that frees you up the time to invest more in yourself. So, brilliant from Walter and Terry as usual. And of course, just find a way to apply the principle in your world so that you can make it work in your world, because we all are unique and special, and model everyone here who's getting the results that you want.
I like that model from what people are doing. It's tying into Wealth Principle 26 next week. Let's give Doug McGurk a round of applause. He's the king of NLP and hypnosis and making sure that your message is getting across. And if you didn't gather from Dr. Terry Wager, he is the king of the bullet train of action, generator coach, and making sure that people move to where they want to go. He is all about income and generating income. Michael Shine. Will you wait until after I bring Dorina on?
No, either one, either one. Well, ladies first, ladies first.
Look at how generous Mike is. Dorina, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning. I would say about outsourcing or leveraging. It's sometimes we don't do it because we may just lack the systems, because how can you outsource if you can't pass on the system that works? So you end up doing all these little things because you think like, okay, it's gonna take me less time to do it myself versus explaining someone, like by the time I explain, I'm just gonna do it. So I think it's number one, sometimes a lack of systems. So you can just easily send them an email, this is how it's done, and they do it. Again, depends on the task. Sometimes laundry is just a switching activity and it's something else you do, clean the house, a little bit of music, a little bit of books. But I also heard yesterday, I was watching a podcast from Bigger Pockets, and someone said, like, if you are not leveraging, you're being leveraged by something else. So are we sabotaging ourselves by doing all these little tasks? So something else or somebody else is leveraging us. So do we want to be leveraged, and how much time and how much happiness does it take away, or opportunity cost? So that's kind of like a couple of thoughts that are in my head, and I'm going to be contemplating more. But hey, really ask yourself a question. Is someone else is leveraging you because you're not outsourcing?
Let's give Dorina a round of applause. By the way, she said it to me in the car last night, and I was like, I'm going to say that on the call tomorrow. That is totally mine. And I spaced it out. So again, Dorina, a round of applause for getting the good one in there. I love that. And we do. We outsource a lot in our household, in our family. Like we definitely outsource a lot, and we outsource more and more every day. There's members of the community who've offered to help us out with certain things because the project is so big. We have to outsource, because what we're looking to do is so massive, and we're looking to help so many people. My ego gives me a hard time opening and saying, yes, I'll take your help. And I have a real problem with it. And let me change my phraseology. I am getting much better at receiving help from people who care and want to see the mission do well. And Dorina is a big part of that. She literally is like, oh, this person could do this. And I'm like, I don't want it. And she's like, I'll ask them. And it solves the problem. So if you're doing, here's what I'll tell you. If you're in this community, you may have the same problem. And I say that because the leader or the person who speaks the most in a community likely attracted like-minded people. And so I'm not maybe the fault, but I am the telltale sign that if I have an issue, all of us may be able to identify that in ourselves. Hence the camera if that's okay. It's like growing up with a brother and sister. If you guys probably talk the same way because you hung around together for a while. And so as I identify my issues, I share them with you as I'm identifying my solutions, because I want each one of you to be able to do that for other people who are like-minded, who are looking to get to where you are. By the way, you just got to know a little bit more than the person behind you. You got to be a little bit ahead. You don't have to be all the way there in order to mentor somebody at least. Does that make sense? To be 100 millionaires, building 100 millionaires, you don't have to know everything, just the next step. Mike Shine, you're up.
I'm actually so glad that Dorina went before me, because she said the word leverage, and this is really all about leveraging time. I was going to start off by saying there's three books that I've read: The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, and The One Thing by Gary Keller. And they all emphasize this. They all emphasize, again, I always go back to the gray grass. I hate cutting the grass. I have a lawnmower that's now sat in my shed with spiders all over it for at least 3 years now. I don't think it works anymore. So when you think of like really powerful people in history, like Mother Teresa and Elon Musk and Henry Ford, it's all about, right, they all had the same 24 hours, but they were able to leverage other people, just like Walter does with his mission. You get a mission, you get a big why, and then people want to follow you and help you with that. Like Mother Teresa, there were so many nuns that just wanted to help her. It's amazing. So that's how she was able to be in Calcutta, but touch the whole world at one time. So in my life personally, I totally agree with Terry. When I started my title company in 2005, it was just me. And I was doing the commitments, I was doing the settlement statements, I was getting the packages together, I was doing all that stuff. So I learned it. And then as I got bigger, I hired the paralegals who were able to take that on. But if there's something that happens, I always know what the deal is because I learned it before I delegated it. So that's really a key point. And people always ask me, how do you have time to be on all these Zoom calls with Walter? And it's because I've set up my business and my investments by delegating. You know, I'm so grateful for Ken Hoffman, did so much in getting those 15 units bought and sold. And so it's just leveraging somebody else, but it's a benefit to him. He's leveraging my money while I'm leveraging his time. So yeah, I totally agree with Dorena. It's all about leverage, and how to turn 24 hours into 48 hours or 72 hours is by delegating. Thank you.
Let's give Mike Shine a round of applause. It's a powerful lesson. Each one of you is powerful in yourself because you have the ability to take these lessons and apply them in your life. You know this, but that's the beauty to the 52 Weeks to Wealth, is each one of the lessons is so small and calculatable that you can actually digest it in a week. You can implement these every single week in stacking on top of each other. You can see how it works. You can see how last week's wealth principle ties into this week. Next week's will tie into this one as well, and the week after. And you're building an asset in your life. You're reviewing your life, reviewing the results, reviewing the habits and the routines that you're creating so that you can have a bigger impact on the planet, and you can have a bigger impact in your life. Hands to the camera if you know you want more. Hands to the camera if you know you're capable of more. If there is more for you out there. Absolutely there is. Absolutely. Go to ibuildmillionaires.com and register for the summit. ibuildmillionaires.com/summit and meet us. Hang out with us in Orlando. I'm looking to fill a room with motivated people who are going to be the best contacts for each other.
Right.
I want this room to be the room that you say, every year I'm going to this, because every year I meet my next business partner who's going to do all the stuff I don't want to do. Hands to camera if you know Ron does all the stuff I don't want to do. It's true. Dr. Terry Wager does all the stuff I don't want to do. All right, who knows that? That's true. Dorena Pagoda does all the stuff I don't want to do. Who's seen this? Right? This is true. Mike Shine, Doug, every single one of the coaches is doing something that I don't want to do. It's my lower use. Now, that doesn't mean it's not extremely high. Each one of these, by the way, each one of these people in this call is a highly leveraged human being. They're leveraging other people. They're leveraging other systems. Does that make sense? You want to make more money? Leverage highly leveraged people. Leverage people who are already extremely leveraged, who already have access to a massive amount of leverage. Hands to camera if you know you're capable of doing this. It's simple. It's simple. It may not be easy at first, but once you get used to it, it is addicting. You've heard the saying, the first $1 million is a bitch. The second $1 million is inevitable. That first partner can be a little bit of work. That first outsourcing piece can be a little bit of work. But once you start outsourcing, Woo! It's addicting. Biggest homework for the next 20 minutes. I want you to write down, I want you to find and identify the highest leverage task you have. Highest leverage task you have. For me, it was the 52 weeks to wealth. I could cut out everything else I do. As long as I do this one particular event each week, I move every single one of my businesses forward. Identify yours. What is your one thing? I spend 30 minutes to an hour a week on one call that is extremely highly leveraged. And I could make all my money for the rest of the week. Hands can if you know there's something like that for you too. That's your homework for this week. Find it. Once you find it, man, outsourcing will be easy. I promise. I guarantee you. Once you identify your one thing that makes all the money, outsourcing will be simple. The reason it's hard or complex because you just don't know. Let's open it up for call questions. I want to open up to you any questions or concerns or things that came up during this conversation. We got about 7 minutes. This is your chance. Anybody who's got a question or comment, something, an aha. And by the way, I want to say a special thanks to Charles Coachman, who invited me to Ken Wall's mastermind. I have been gaining the best guests for my podcast thanks to Charles and making the connection. Let's give him a round of applause. I appreciate you, Charles. The Alchemist Nation podcast is better thanks to you. Whose mic is unmuted? Julie Bradley, go. You're up.
Yes, thank you, Walter. I just thought to make a statement, add in with my first outsource where I thought I learned it and I outsourced it. This assistant came in and showed me even more things that I wasn't good at when I did the position. And that is huge for developing. Like if they're like good at what they do and they can even do it better than you, I mean, it's a game changer. I thought nobody in the world was more organized than me, and she can keep me organized. How is that? So just great concept. And it definitely is, the more you practice it, the more you're able to develop your outsourcing positions and see them from like start to finish. So
let's give
good
Julie
concept.
Bradley a round of applause. That is so valuable, by the way, for all of us, coaches included, because it's been so long since we've done some of these first steps. We've forgotten the emotions and the awarenesses behind it. So it's easy for us to forget those. Julie's in the process, doing it right now, which is why this community is so valuable, because you're action takers. Some of you are a little ahead, some of you are a little behind. You're learning and growing from each other, and you're doing things differently, and so you're able to learn from it. Awesome job, Julie. I'm really impressed. Kevin, I saw your hand, brother. You're up.
So I know we gotta, right? There's a steps. I might mess it up. Learn it, delegate it. But either way, like where do you guys feel most comfortable, right? With getting ready to delegate. Malcolm Gladwell, right? Being in Outliers, I believe you're looking at 10,000 hours in your. So what are we aiming? 10,000 hours to this thing? Is it 20,000 hours before I do decide to bring in that outsourcing partner? Where do you guys feel comfortable with that? Like, where do you guys see, like, maybe
I love that.
reaching those certain hours? Is that 10,000 it?
You know,
So I know
it's-
Terry's got his mic unmuted. And I
It's
want to do
not
this one
10
so bad. Go ahead, Terry.
You want to answer?
No,
The
it's yours,
10,000
bro.
hours is to be an expert in something. And so if you want to be an expert in something, Malcolm Gladwell suggests you got to have 10,000 hours into it. But to be proficient at something enough to know and jump in when you have a gap that needs to be filled isn't 10,000 hours. And I can't remember who it was that did a TED talk on this, but he learned to play the ukulele in 20 hours, and he mashed up like 13 or 15 songs that had the same basic chords, and it was funny as hell. I'll try to remember who it is and get that and post it in the group. But 20 hours and you can get proficient at something if you really give your time, attention, and love to it. But if you're doing it resistant, or you're doing it because you have to, or you're doing it in this victim stance of, oh my God, I got to learn how to do this, you're not going to actually be paying attention, because your ego is going to actually be leveraging your laziness and not wanting to do it. And so put your time, attention, and love into what you need to learn, get it down, then find somebody to fill that gap.
And just to clarify, by the way, let's give Dr. Tara Wager a round of applause. It's a phenomenal answer. That is the truth right there. Because he mentioned 20 hours, I don't want you to think that 20 hours is the time to learn anything. Here's how I frame it in a more vague stance. Do it, learn it, do it well, get it completed, whatever the task takes to completion, and then do it again until you've hit the amount of time you'd like it to take. So sometimes the first time you do something always takes longer. It seems to be about 4 times longer than it should, right? The first time I wrote a blog, I sat there for freaking ever. Now I can write a blog in about 15, 20 minutes. But the first blog was like a 2-3 hour process. Hands can if you experienced that and other things, where the first time you do it, it takes a long time. So the second time, the third time, you start getting more efficient with it. You don't want to delegate something you've only done well. You want to delegate something you've done well in a timely manner. Once you can do it efficiently, that's when you can teach it. Now, it's even better to delegate, like Julie said, to somebody smarter, faster, better than you. And first, you have to acknowledge that those people exist. First, you have to acknowledge that there is somebody better, somebody smarter, somebody faster, more skilled, more networked, more talented, whatever it may be, and then seek them out. Hire up, don't hire down. I hate training people who don't have skill, talent, or motivation. Hire up. Does that make sense? Now, in sales, they don't need to know about your product. They just need to be a great salesperson. You can train that piece. Does that make sense? Excellent. Excellent. What other questions? We'll hang out for a few more minutes. If there's good statements, good comments like that, I mean, let's give Kevin Pereira a round of applause. That's a good one. Great question. Great qualifier. What else?
But let me just add real quickly, the reason why you want to spend a little time doing it as well is so that you can vet the people that you're picking. And know if they're actually good at what they do. Because there are a lot of people who say they are. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm a master at this, right? But, you know, you want to be able to know, oh, wait a minute. Because I struggled at this stage and you're doing the same thing, you don't have more experience than me. You are not better than me because you're doing the same thing I'm doing. So I don't want to be working with you. And you won't know that. You'll just feel like everybody's better than you because you haven't really figured anything out. So that's the value of doing it, right? Learn it, do it for a little bit so you can actually align with someone who's doing it even better so you could have the experience Julie shared.
Let's give Doug McGurk a round of applause. Another great share. In fact, since we're on the topic, you can unmute your mic at any point and I will stop talking. I want to answer any questions. But since we're on the topic, me and Ron, we have different skills. When we started the investment company, I was the physical hands-on knows how the project goes guy. And that's came from the confidence to doing my first projects came from working on my first house by myself with YouTube or watching plumbers or watching electricians. So when I went to scaling and managing other people, I knew what tasks were involved. I knew if they were blowing smoke up my ass or if they were being serious about, the unicorns in the muffler, right? Anybody, been to the mechanic before? Remember Dane Cook with the unicorn and the muffler poking holes? Yeah, mystical creatures. So like there is a level of knowledge that you must have, a baseline, if you are the project manager of the property. But if you're like Ron Bowling, he doesn't have to know half of this stuff. And he's made it a point, and I think a very good business partner does that. Mike Shine's very good at this. Makes it a point to say, I don't know. I have no intention of learning that piece.
Here to send it to me, but I don't see it.
Terry, we got
Sorry.
you. No worries.
Sorry.
What other questions do you have? And if you want to be great at outsourcing, decide what you're not going to be good at. Decide what you're just not going to learn. I think that is a great tool to identify the right partners, the right things to outsource. Just decide, I'm not going to be good at this. It's not where I want to go. What am I going to be good at? And just stay to what you're best at. I knew speaking was my thing. Ron knew speaking was not his thing. And so we just went in the opposite directions. Does that make sense? What other questions, comments, or statements, things that you learned or things you want to share with the community? Awesome. Awesome. This is a powerful lesson. You gain something from it? Like this little after session where we get to communicate with each other, hear feedback. Awesome. I like it too. Personally, it's probably one of my favorite parts is listening to what's going on with you. Each one of you means a lot to me. You're an investment. I told Ron and we decided South Coast Capital, our slogan is we build people. We just happen to buy real estate. People are our commodity. Your success is our success. You do well, that means we're gonna be able to partner on things down the road. Whether it's a deal, you're doing the labor, or you bring in the money. Depends on where everybody's at. But for us, we want to fill the gap. We want to fill whatever your issue is, whatever your weakness is. We've got that size network. We've got that size capital. We've got that access to deals. Hands to camera, if you know, you are an important part of our 100 millionaire mission. Building 100 millionaires starts with you. It starts with you deciding that you are worth it. You're worth it. You're worthy of success. It starts with you setting the goal at the $1 million. It starts with you coming to the trainings, showing up as a part of success. You can't be successful if you don't show up for the game. You can't be successful if you don't show up for the action. And then the next step is taking the action. You are the pivotal point. You are my leverage point to building 100 millionaires who are inspired to build 100 millionaires. Now, could I go out and just find 100 millionaires who already exist? Millionaires who are already out there? Yes. But would they have that same passion to build 100 millionaires? I don't think so. I think it comes from starting from nothing. I think it comes from going through this process, seeing this community, rising up together, having this singular mission as we grow. And so that's why we've built it the way we have. That's why you're so important. You're so imperative to the process. And if you're listening, you haven't signed up for the mentorship yet, I apologize for not selling you on how important it is to this process. But the mentorship is only 8 weeks. But in those 8 weeks, we change, we shift, and we adapt your habits and your routines so that you're on track to make that $1 million. We adjust you and we connect you with our inner circle, our mentorship members, our graduates, the people who have come before you, and we vet you out to make sure you do things legally, ethically, and morally. Hands to camera if you know the mentorship is valuable. Excellent. Excellent. Give yourselves a round of applause. Cheers to your success. We have a choice. Always work with the best. Go to ibuildmillionaires.com/summit, and I'll see you in Orlando.
Always work with the best.
See, that was a new process of me saying it 3 times to remember to say it. So eating the
Best.
product. My friends, I'll see you next week. Great job, by the way.